Good morning. It is Monday, December 7th, and the start of a new weekly reading vlog. So as I mentioned, as I just wrapped up my last vlog, I am about halfway through Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I actually forgot to mention that once I tried Dune and decided to read a physical copy, I also was listening to the audiobook of Never Good Enough. I'll put an image here. I'm blanking on the author's name at the moment. So I'm about halfway through that. So my plans this week, I'm going to finish that, I'm going to hopefully finish Kingdom of the Wicked. I think next physically, I'm probably going to read Fable by Adrienne Young, but I'm not entirely sure. So I'll need to think about that one. I'm also not sure what my next audiobook will be. Maybe it'll be Warbreaker, maybe it'll be the 5th season. Just not quite sure. Maybe it'll be another nonfiction. I don't know. We're just gonna see how I'm feeling. So, but I will check in once I have more reading done. Good morning. It is Tuesday, December 15th. So I'm gonna wrap up this vlog. Once again, it was just a crazy weekend and I just didn't have a chance to check in. And I didn't finish Kingdom of the Wicked until later in the week, I think. And so anyway, just haven't had a chance to check in. But there are a couple of things to update on. As I just mentioned, I did finish Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco, and this was October's Fairyloot book. And this one I had a really fun time with it. I don't think it was my favorite Fairyloot. There were a few things about this world that were a little bit confusing to me. I'm not sure if it was the writing or I'm not sure what it was. But anyway, this was like the vibe and the atmosphere of this one was so cool. So this one follows Vittoria and Emilia, and they're twin sisters, and they live in a vaguely historical, I don't think the time period is ever specifically mentioned, but it definitely has the feel of a vaguely historical, maybe 1800s Italy, and their family runs a restaurant. And the food in this really made me hungry the entire time. It sounded so good. But they run a restaurant and their family are witches, and there aren't a ton of witches in this world, but their family are witches, or part of a lineage of witches. And there have been a string of murders that have been going on, and one day Emilia finds her sister Vittoria killed in the midst of this string of murders, and so she's trying to figure out what's going on. She calls upon a prince of hell, and there's a bunch of stuff going on with these princes of hell. She actually meets multiple of them throughout the story, but she essentially calls upon one of the princes of hell, and ultimately teams up with him to try to figure out what happened to her sister. So it was super interesting. As I said, the atmosphere was super cool. I really liked that. I think that was my favorite part of this. The characters were fine. I don't know if there's anything particularly special about the characters for me or the character work in this book. And there definitely were elements of the world that were super interesting and super cool. I think some of them, at least for me, weren't well explained, but I don't know if that's just me or if it's the writing, as I mentioned. But this one is ultimately just fun and entertaining to me, and I'm definitely excited to see where the story goes. So I think I will be picking up the sequel. I'm not sure how many books this is supposed to be, but I definitely will be picking up the next book and just seeing what happens. I can see this being a really fun book to read around Halloween or read in October. And so we'll see if I can pick up the next one later on. I also finished the audiobook of Never Good Enough, and this is a nonfiction. So if you're someone that struggles with perfectionism, which I definitely do, I'm hardcore and internally focused perfectionist, and sometimes to a problematic degree. And if that's something that you struggle with, perfectionism in general, she talks about both inwardly and outwardly focused perfectionists in here. And so if that's something that you struggle with, I think this would be a good book to check out. it can be super easy for perfectionists to feel like they're never going to be good enough, and can kind of struggle with that. And this was a book kind of designed to get you to kind of think about the mindsets that can kind of put you into a perfectionist spiral, kind of how you can kind of break down that logic and kind of see where that logic falls apart, and kind of try to approach it that way, try to see things as along a continuum instead of black and white, and which can sometimes happen. And I think she broke it down in a really interesting and easy to understand way. I think she gave some really great exercises to kind of help you work through recognizing when perfectionism can be an asset, when maybe it doesn't really serve you very well, how to think about, or kind of break down again how you think about those perfectionist thoughts, or kind of the perfectionist thoughts and schemas that you have, in a way that you can kind of break it down and say, sometimes this serves me, and sometimes my beliefs, sometimes they might be true, but frequently my beliefs or the schemas that I have just might not be accurate, and might not be true. And how can I kind of recognize that, and realize that maybe something isn't all good or bad. But anyway, it was really, really interesting. I thought it was pretty helpful, and I think it'll be interesting to kind of go through some of these exercises. So if that's something you experience and something you struggle with, I would check this out. I think it could be helpful for you. And I also, so those are the two that I finished this week. And then I picked up on audio, I started listening to Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. I have 13 hours left in the audiobook as of right now, and I am adoring this story. This one might be my favorite Brandon Sanderson. I'm not sure. Again, I'm only like halfway through, but I love this one. This one follows Siri and her sister. And Siri's the younger sister. Her older sister was supposed to, she's been trained her entire life in court politics, and she's supposed to go to Hallandren to marry the God King as part of a political marriage. And at the last second, her father sends the youngest daughter, Siri, instead. So Siri's trying to figure out what the heck is going on and how to survive in the new world that she has kind of been thrown into. And her sister is trying to do what she can to ultimately save and protect her sister. And there's a bunch of politics going on, inside the court. You also follow one of the other, so there's the God King, but there are other kind of gods in this court setting. And they also have a bunch of priests and kind of a bunch of people who help them. And you also follow one of the gods, who is absolutely hysterical. I love that song. Anyway, it's super entertaining. It's super interesting. The politics is really, really interesting, and just kind of the world, the setting that they're in is really, really interesting. I love every single character. There's not a so you jump around to these different perspectives. There's not a single perspective that I have not enjoyed. I haven't really felt like I've really just wanted to get back to one of the other perspectives. I've enjoyed all of them. And yeah, that's the setup for the book. Again, loving it. So the thing that I'm reading physically right now, I'm about halfway through Fable by Adrienne Young. This is another Fairyloot book. I'm trying to get caught up on my Fairyloot, so that'll be the theme of the rest of this month, really. And this is a C book. You follow Fable as our main character, and she has been abandoned by her father, who was running a ship. And her mother also died when she was younger, again abandoned by her father 4 years before the story starts. And she's kind of been just surviving on an island, dredging up pyre and trading it for coin, or selling it for coin. And so it's kind of how she survived. She's basically trying her best to survive, first of all, and second of all, try to dredge up enough pyre and collect enough coin to be able to buy passage to kind of one of the main port cities, so that she can hopefully track down her father. And she wants to take her rightful place as part of his crew, which is interesting. But she essentially wants to find her father and basically just kind of see what happens after that. And yeah, so she is collecting coin, trying to survive. She ultimately is able to buy passage, and you know, part of the story is just about her adventure on the ship that she buys passage on, and kind of their adventure trying to get to this port city. And you know, I don't know, stuff is gonna ensue, I'm guessing, when she meets her father. Anyway, that's what I'm currently reading. I'm actually really enjoying this so far. I'm physically reading while listening to the audiobook, and I'm enjoying the audiobook as well. I think the narrator's done a really good job. And yeah, it's just been fun. It's definitely, I don't necessarily feel like it's a character-based fantasy. I think it's mostly just kind of plot-based, and you following what's kind of happening as Fable is trying to survive. I don't necessarily feel particularly connected to the characters or tied to the characters, but again, that's fine. I don't necessarily have to do that in order to enjoy a story, but yeah, I think it's more of a plot based, just here's what's going on with the ship and, you know, this crew, and yeah, enjoying it so far. So that's it for this week. It's probably going to be another super short vlog, but you know, it's what it is. So thank you so much for watching. I'll be sure to link my Twitter and Instagram down below. That's where I like to hang out. I will link more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.